Hello, flourishing friends. It's Dr. Ev here, and I want to talk to you about something that could be maybe give you some insight into why you find certain things threatening or perceive them as stressful, and why some things not. So, this is called the three C's, and this is something I believe Stephen Porges of polyvagal theory discovered or wrote up originally. But I learned about it in the study of polyvagal theory, and it's really an interesting thought experiment when you're noticing that something is triggering your nervous system and you're feeling um, threatened or anxious or scared about something. You can ask this question, go through this series. So I'm going to break it down for you. The three C's stand for context, connection, and choice. So I'll repeat that: context, connection, and choice. So if something's going to be perceived as threatening, or if these are red flags, if one of these things is missing. So I'll give an example. And this is the most basic one I can think of, but basically, if you got an email from work, right? Okay. An email from work can be a very benign thing, but say it's 9 p.m. on a Friday, and you get an email from your boss. Now, if you had no context for this email and it was a surprise to see this, that would obviously be a little bit more triggering, right? It might be like, what is this, right? I don't know what this is. This isn't good. This is abnormal. I wasn't expecting this. And so that triggers it to be perceived as more of a threat. Versus if your boss had let you know earlier in the day, hey, I'm behind on getting that information to you. I will have it to you by the end of the day. If you saw that email pop up at 9 p.m., you'd be like, oh, there it is. She got it to me. She finished it. Like, awesome. So if you were expecting it, right, you had some context, it wouldn't be as threatening. Now, then it's connection, and that one's kind of interesting. So if you have a kind of toxic or unsafe relationship with your boss, and you're getting this email, and you felt like maybe your job is at stake, or you're not sure if they really like you or whatever it is, then that's obvious. That's going to feel a little bit more threatening to your nervous system as well, right? Having a fear that there's a strain in the connection there. Whereas if your boss had shown you that she was very caring, a good listener, very much in your corner, wanting to get feedback, you guys have a really good relationship, then when you saw an email from her, you might not consider it scary, right? You might not perceive it as threatening because you know that you have a good connection. And then finally, you get that email and you have a very strict and toxic office policy where you need to respond within 24 hours to any email communications. Otherwise, dings happen, et cetera, et cetera. You don't feel like you really have choice in that. That could also be perceived as really threatening, right? Because you're like, it's 9 o'clock on Friday. I have to answer this. I'm like going to be busy tomorrow. Like, I don't want to be on my email right now. Like, what is going on? And you feel backed into a corner. You might perceive it as more of a threat. Versus if you have choice and you have office policies that say, like, the weekends are the weekends, like, this is your honoring, or if we send you something within this period, like, it's okay. Or you just know that your office would be understanding about, you taking the weekend to respond or whatever it is, then it's obviously going to be, again, less threatening to your nervous system, right? So that's a very basic example of the three C's: a context, connection, and choice at work. Now, the way that we can kind of reverse engineer this, which can be kind of a fun thought experiment for you this week, is that we can figure out if we get triggered by something in the day. Okay, so this just happened to me today. My landlord came into my apartment because she thought I wasn't home. They had notified us that they were coming by and everything. And I had shared, like, oh, that's right around Lucia's nap time, so I might be putting her down in the back. But then they apparently knocked while I was in the back bedroom putting my daughter down for a nap and entered the house. And I came out, like, I heard them and I was like, what is going on? And I came out and was like, hi, like, I am here. And they were like, oh, we knocked, like, didn't hear a response, like, we're here, blah, blah, blah. And I could notice my nervous system, like, feeling like uncomfortable, like, icky with that. And so in hindsight, now I'm sitting down to make this video. This literally just happened to me like 30 minutes ago. And I was like, what was that felt so icky? Why did I, notice my nervous system getting triggered? Why did I notice the threat response kind of being activated? And okay, let's go through it. So I had context. They did tell me that they were coming. I knew that they were going to come see the property today. I knew who the people were, so they're not strangers or anything like that. I didn't really have connection. Like, they're not my favorite people. They're kind of in a position of power. Like, I, need to, it's their house. Like, I'm just renting from them. So things are changing. So maybe I'm lacking a little bit of that connection. It's not like my best friend walked in my front door and I saw her sitting there and I was like, oh, hey, what's going on? I also don't know if they have my best interest at heart or my family's best interest at heart. So this was like getting me a little wary. And then I think the part that really struck me was the lack of choice, where, I had tried to say, hey, I would like to have no interruptions during this time because I'm putting my daughter to sleep. And they came in anyway, or they knocked on the door. They didn't wait for me to open the door. So that was a very vulnerable position, I think, in my nervous system, perceived as vulnerable. I mean, in reality, it was a miscommunication. It was an oversight on their part. But and I can realize that in my logical brain. But in my nervous system, it was just interesting to be like, okay, wow, like my nervous system didn't like that. And then the cool thing is, like, I can then talk to my nervous system about that, like, about that lack of choice. I could tell myself, like, what are my choices now in this situation? I probably could have told them to get out, if I really wanted to. I probably could have made a big deal about it and said, excuse me, like, you knew I was home. Under no circumstances should you be entering my home before I answer the door. Or, I could have made a big deal about it if I wanted to. I could write them a note that says, in the future, please, when I tell you that I'm going to be napping, that putting my daughter down to sleep, that means that I am unavailable to answer. Please do not just come in. If I've stated that I'm going to be home, whatever it is. I'm making stuff up now. You can do what you want to do to just talk through and say, like, what would maybe help me the next time or in the future to help me be a little bit less triggered in this situation, to give myself some context, give myself some connection, give myself some choice. And you can usually find something in there to give yourself, to help the situation feel a little less threatening to your system. So play with that this week. It happens all the time. Obviously, you need to be aware and notice when you're getting that like feeling of your nervous system being activated. But if, when you do feel that, like pause or reflect later in the day, like what could I have done to give myself more connection, more choice, more context? And if something really nerve-wracking is coming up, like a big presentation or a big meeting or a big whatever, you can brainstorm like, what are my choices here? Who do I have connection with? Like, do I trust that this person has my best interest? Could I touch base with them and have a conversation with them about like the things that are making me feel anxious, etc. So again, let me know how this goes. I'm going to write my next newsletter on this. I just like to have the videos so you can have that context there as well. And I hope this feels useful. So let me know if you use it. Okay, till next time.